Greetings. Okay. Let's go here. Greetings, family. How you all doing? Hi. Okay, so that's there. Put my microphone on. So, hello everybody. Hi Leah. I hope you're well in these crazy times. So my name is June Allen, and I am the founder of The Art of Greatness at juneallen.net, and I teach African-centered self-love, sisterhood, and sobriety. So today I want to talk about how to create calm inside the storm. The storm that's doesn't seem to be any sort of let up. It's been no let up for us for the last 500 years. So it's I had to take a couple of days away just to kind of recenter myself, do some self-care, and just kind of to recenter myself so I could come back and share some stuff. So I just wanted to share some of the things that I've been doing as well, actually, around this. But let me just go through some things actually before I actually get into the content. Hi, thanks for joining. So I'm a mum. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a retreat facilitator. I am a student psychotherapist. Hi, thanks for joining. So and I teach. I've been doing this work since 2009. I went into 12-step recovery because of my dysfunctional relationships, and I needed to find out what was going on. Addiction is not just about drinking drugs. It can be, addiction can be compulsions around anything, that is becoming dysfunctional and becomes harmful to you that you can't stop doing. So anyway, I kept finding myself in these relationships that weren't good for me, that were abusive, and I needed to get them sorted out. So I went into 12-step recovery, had an amazing time, learned a lot about myself, but there was no cultural context, okay? There was no cultural context. I didn't understand what it meant to be a black woman and to do this work and really understand it, and to be able to have some sort of context around, what happened to my ancestors on the plantation, how does that relate now, and all of that kind of stuff. So I became obsessed with reading loads of books and just exploring, what that meant, and what being a black woman, still living under the system, under the system of racism, what does that look like? What does that mean today? And how am I going to be able to do my healing with all of that still going on, especially with all this craziness that's going on at the moment? What does that look like? And I just, when I started, doing the book, reading all the books, and obviously training as a psychotherapist now, I began to join a lot of the dots, and I just began to understand a lot more of what was going on. And so that's when I started to feel a lot more empowered, because I started to use a lot of the tools that I was learning in these books and stuff like that, and I was able to translate them into something that worked as part of my experience as a black woman living under the system of racism. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I started sharing a lot more publicly on social media, sharing with other black people that were in my recovery circle and stuff like that. And it just became, I just really built a great network of people. Other people started getting a lot more relief and understanding around their own process, their own addictions as well, and they just began to feel a lot more empowered, because they realized that there were things that they could do, and I was able to give them a language that they were able to understand. I was able to share my own tools and my own process that I was doing, and it really began to help other people. And so I just started sharing a lot more publicly, because I know I'm not the only one going through this stuff. So it was just important for me to be able to share what I was learning. So I just feel really, really grateful now that I'm in this position to be able to share this with you. I'm finding it really difficult to be present today. I think because I'm still working through my own stuff, it's hard for me to stay present with everything that's going on. So just, if I'm taking a bit longer to kind of articulate what I'm saying, just bear with me, because obviously I'm trying to show up as best I can in these situations, and actually just saying that out loud was actually really helpful. Just bear with me if it's taking me a little bit of time to kind of articulate what I'm saying, because as somebody that's trying to hold space for you and trying to do my own work and stuff like that, I have to be mindful of, how I take care of myself. So, right, so that's a little bit about me, anyway, about what's going on for me at the moment. So, a little bit of housekeeping. This week was my 10-year anniversary. Okay, my 10-year anniversary is my sobriety birthday. So, 10 years sober on the 2nd of June. Okay, I got my first sponsor on the 2nd of June 2010. So I feel really grateful that recovery's just done so much for me. So I've been feeling really, really great about that. So I have 2 offers on, well, actually I have 1 free thing. Let me just say first and foremost, let me see. So Victorious Walks is saying, I'm finding the same, easy to become dissipated in the current energy. Yeah, that's what it is. My brain is just like, it's just not connected, it's just not functioning. So I just want to be compassionate to myself, and then saying it out loud, you will give me some grace as well as I'm sharing and doing the best I can under the current circumstances. So the first bit of housekeeping that I want to share is I have a free mini ebook, okay, about how to manage racial stress. So I talk about different tools, different things that you can do to take care of yourself, okay, in these crazy times. So if you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. You can download the free ebook there, and you can share it with your friends or whatever. Get them to download it as well, because there's loads of really great tools in there, and I've had really good feedback from people that have actually downloaded it. How to deal with your anger, how to deal with your sadness, how to deal with the upset, how to deal with, if you're in white circles and not really sure how to deal with them, you can, that's all of that is in the ebook. So go to my website and you can download that. The second thing that I want to share is, if you are in recovery, okay, and you are struggling with, staying sober, how to deal with racism in the rooms, how to, if you're feeling particularly triggered with everything going on, it's going to be even more triggering for us, So if you're struggling with all of that, there's also, I have a collection of racial sobriety speakers as well on my website. So there's shares about interracial sponsorship, cultural top lines, unworthiness and under-earning, food addiction, and trauma in relationships and stuff like that. So if you're in recovery and you're struggling and you really, you want some stuff around racial sobriety, which is specifically going to help you with your recovery process from a cultural perspective, then you can get copies of those free speakers as well on my website. And the last piece of housekeeping that I have is, if you want the bundle that goes with the conference speakers, that's currently on offer at the moment, £25 versus £49, and the topics there are freedom from addiction to self-hate, the characteristics of racial codependency, 3 ways to deal with racism in the rooms, what do racial boundaries look like, 5 ways racial sobriety opens you up to love, the seasons of racial sobriety, and the promises of racial sobriety. So there's a huge amount of stuff in there. Okay, it's called the Work It Bundle. That's £25 versus £49. So if you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's going to be on offer until the end of this weekend. Okay, so Sunday evening that'll go off. So for those of you let me just reset for those of you that have just joined. So for those of you that have just joined and don't know my work, my name is June Allen, and I'm the founder of The Art of Greatness at juneallen.net, and I teach African-centered self-love, sisterhood and sobriety. So I have 3 requests in this broadcast. Okay, if you think that there's somebody that might benefit from the topic that I'm going to be talking about, then please share it with them, tag them. Okay, if you've got any questions or anything about anything that I say, then you can drop them in the comments below, and I will obviously do my best to answer them. If you don't feel comfortable sharing in the comments below, then you can send me an email or send me a DM with the question, and I will I will deal with it from there. Okay, so the other thing to remember is, this is not, even though I'm a student psychotherapist, a damn good one at that, this should not be used as a substitute for seeing a licensed mental health professional. Okay, so now let's get into the content. So how do you create calm inside the storm? Okay, there's so much madness going on at the moment, and just going through my timeline, I mean, it was enough just it was overwhelming just seeing, I mean, I haven't watched the video, but it was overwhelming seeing all the madness that's been going on with all the black people that is still being, I mean, there's too many to name, so I'm not going to name any of them because there's just too many to name. But with all of that going on, and then having to deal with the fact that we're disproportionately being dying from COVID, and now I'm seeing all this stuff on my timeline from white people that are, you know, piping up with this all lives matter bullshit. You know, the denial and the white guilt around this all lives matter and all this crap is just, I'm just seeing black people just really exhausted. You know, I look down my timeline, I can just see the frustration, I see the hurt, I see the grief, I see the tiredness, people are just fed up. They're on the rock bottom now. You know, a lot of us are at rock bottom now. You know, so, you know, with all of this going on, this storm, you know, we have to find ways in order to create calm within ourselves. So, you know, I just wanted to come on and share some of the ways that I've been doing that, okay, for myself, and hopefully this is going to be able to help you. So the first thing that I do in order to create calm inside the storm is to really prioritize focusing on your internal boundaries, okay? Prioritizing taking care of or being conscious of your internal boundaries, okay? Now what I mean by that is setting our own limits and setting our own rules around what is right for us, making promises to ourselves and keeping those promises to ourselves, making our own set of rules, our own set of rules that are nurturing, that are self-nurturing, okay? Being clear about what is right or wrong for us, okay? So some examples of that would be, you know, I'm only going to go on social media for half an hour. That's me setting an internal boundary and actually sticking to it. I'm just going on social media to maybe for half an hour, or I am not going on social media today. I'm worn out, I'm burnt out, I've had enough of all of this nonsense. I am not going on social media today. That is an internal boundary because I understand that my brain cannot take whatever's going on social media, all of the trauma, all of the drama, all of the upset, the videos, the images, I just, you know, you can just come off that. You can make a decision to just say, okay, I need to protect my own well-being today, and I am not going on social media. Okay, that is what protecting an internal boundary look like. Another one might be, I am not going to engage with white people about certain conversations. Because there are certain, and I see the exhaustion in people, and I've been saying this for years, that this is why I don't have these conversations with, because the majority of white people, they don't want to do this work. And I want to keep saying it. The majority of white people don't want to do this work, or they only want to do this work if black people educate them. They're only willing to do the work if black people are educating them. And not only are we getting killed and murdered and abused, but now we're supposed to do the emotional labour now on top of everything else to teach white people about racism that they're actually perpetuating. It's insane. So for me, one of my internal boundaries is I'm very boundaried around having these conversations with white people because I'm not doing it. Yesterday in my college class, you know, one of the ladies was saying about she was saying about how, you know, that we shouldn't separate and that, you know, we need to come together and all this sort of stuff. And you know, for some people that works for them. For some people that works for them to kind of work in conjunction with allies and all the rest of it. But for me personally, to maintain my sense of well-being, I cannot do this healing work with white people. I think it's too soon. It's too kumbaya. It's too soon. At the end of the day, we have had 400 years, or however long it is, being abused, consciously and unconsciously. And unless white people are actually doing this work, being intentional about doing this work independently, I'm not interested in having that conversation with them, because I get into the conversation, I get frustrated, I get overwhelmed, I get triggered, because they're just not doing the work, and they're saying all of these things, and they've got no experience of what they don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're saying. So unless they're doing the anti-racism work, and they start to really, and they're consciously doing it with intent, I'm not going to have that conversation, because I always end up having to educate, and it's just too much hard work, and I'm not doing it. So that is my internal boundary. Okay, that is my internal boundary. I am not going to have certain conversations with white people because it is too draining. And my mental well-being needs to stay focused on my own self-nurturing, number one. And number two, being able to take care of myself so I can take care of my child. And then I can also come on here and empower my community. Okay, my priority is not educating white people about racism. Okay, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. Okay, if it was a dog, if it had been a dog under that policeman's knee, white people would be up in arms. They would get it then. They would understand it then. If it was a dog underneath that policeman's knee, okay, if it had been a dog that died as a result of the policeman kneeling on the dog's neck, white people would be, oh, that poor dog is dead. Really? That's why I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I think in a way that's kind of like low key. Number one, I think it's denial. Okay, I think white people are still in denial about a lot of this stuff. They don't, and I think the reason why they do this stuff is because ultimately they don't want to do the work. Okay, they don't want to do the internal work. It's hard for us to do the work. They don't want to do the work, and they benefit from it. You know, that's real talk. They benefit from it, and you know, if white people really want to change this, they will go and pick up a book and start to do the work. And there are people out there. There are white people out there now that are doing this work. Okay, Google it. Go and find them. Go and find your people, because it's not black people's responsibility to educate white people about this stuff. I'm not doing it. And I make no apologies for it either, because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing my people being tired about doing it. We need to focus on educating ourselves, nurturing ourselves, taking care of ourselves, setting boundaries. Okay? The first internal boundaries that you need to be set is stop having these conversations with white people that want to be educated. Then white people are going to pick up a book. Point blank period. Okay? Because we haven't got the emotional bandwidth to do this work for white people, as well as trying to survive not being murdered. Whether it's under COVID or whether it's, you know, the police in America, and you know, the UK is not you know, I've seen you know, the people in the UK can be in a bit of denial about what's going on in the UK. The UK is no different. The only difference with the UK is that they don't have guns. The police don't have guns, but believe you me, black people over here are still being targeted disproportionately, and they're losing their lives. Under COVID, that's happening. Okay, so racism is not just a thing over there in the UK and to do with Donald Trump. No, I've been saying to people, stop scapegoating Donald Trump around racism. Okay, racism is a global sickness. 100%, it's a global sickness. Stop Donald Trump is an idiot. Yeah, we know that, but you know, people can use that as to say, well, you know, racism is over there. It's over there. It's Donald Trump. It's not nothing to do with that. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Deal with it. You know, yes, it is. So, and I think it's important to remember that. Don't be fooled by the whole thing like, oh, you know, it's not really happening here. It is happening here. You know? So, internal boundaries, okay? Think about the circles that you're in at the moment, and what are the conversations that are coming up. You know, and maybe I'll do a separate live stream on conversations that, you know, that you can have with white people, as in how to set those boundaries, how to say, I'm not having this conversation. You know, I'll do a separate live stream on that, around that conversation, around how to say, you know, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do, but these are the books that you need to read, and stop getting into conversation about it, because they're not going to, you know, they have to actively go and do the work. And I think a lot of them are just paying lip service to it. You know, what should we do? Really? You want a black people who are suffering and grieving and raging over this stuff to now teach white people about their own bigotry? Seriously? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Anyway, so going on again about the internal boundaries and the importance of being really clear about where your boundaries are. Okay, being really clear about where your boundaries are. And the reason why so many of us as black people have why our internal boundaries are so shot to pieces at the moment is because that's how racism operates. Racism operates, it breeds with weak boundaries. I'm just going to take these earrings off actually because I keep knocking against my thing. It's really annoying. So I don't want it to come out in the live stream. Anyway, so racism breeds on weak boundaries. Okay? That's how it operates. So the reason why it's so aggressive and it keeps beating us down and beating us down and beating us down, because when we don't have no boundaries, when we're tired and we ain't got no boundaries, we're easily controlled. Because we just want the pain to stop. We just want the pain to stop. So when we're talking about creating calm, all right, when we're talking about creating calm inside the storm, it's really about really thinking about what's going on for you internally. What's going on for you internally, okay? And you having that conversation with yourself. Well, you know, what are my internal boundaries like? You know, if you've been raised in an environment at home or whatever that was abusive, or you know you didn't feel seen, you know, or if you were raised in an environment where you weren't allowed to speak up and be yourself, that you know you've learned basically that your boundaries are not important, that you're not really valued. If that was your environment when growing up, then it's gonna, with that on top of the racism as well, in terms of, because that's how black people are treated in society, that we don't care, that we don't matter to anybody. Okay, if that's how we're treated, then it's going to be really hard for us to find peace and calm, because we're always constantly going to be looking externally for people to make us feel calm. Okay, we're always going to be looking externally for them to kind of make us feel okay. And what this is about, when you start taking responsibility and understanding your own boundaries and where your boundaries are and what you need and all of that kind of stuff, that's when you can really begin to, you can create more calm for yourself, because then you're not looking externally for other people to make you feel a certain way. Okay, so it's really beginning to understand what your boundary is. Okay, what an internal boundary is. So an internal boundary is the limits that we set for ourselves, the promises that we keep for ourselves, and then also understanding how it was damaged. Okay, whether it's childhood upbringing, whether you're in an abusive home or whatever it is, but also understanding it within the context of racism as well. How racism has the oppression is another way of making us not be clear about our boundaries. Okay, we're not clear about who we are. We're not clear about what works for us as a black person, because we're constantly being under this pressure to kind of kneel to whatever's going on, you know, in terms of white supremacy. We're supposed to behave a certain way, living in white culture. Okay, and no matter how much we tell people to stop hurting us, stop talking to us like that, stop killing us and all, if it still continues to happen, that's what damages our internal boundaries, because it's still continuing to happen despite us being vocal. So whether you're talking about relationship, you know, your love relationship, whether you're talking about family relationships, whether you're talking about white supremacy, if all of those areas, your boundaries are not being respected, that's how your internal boundaries can get shot to pieces. Because you've got nothing to hold on to, because no one's respecting who you are as a human being. So that's why so many of us struggle. Because there is so many different ways that we're being oppressed and abused, that our sense of self is fractured. It's fractured. Okay. So one of the things that I was sharing yesterday, actually, because this conversation came up during my college class about, you know, what are we doing to kind of take care of ourselves at the minute. And one of the things that I spoke about was something that I call my wellness triangle. Okay, so that's one of the things that I want to share with you around how I create calm inside the storm. Okay, so there's 3 different pivots that have to stay balanced. If one of those things is off, then I know that my emotional state is not going to be in a good place. Okay, so the first thing that in that triangle, okay, is understand what my body's doing physically. Okay, how is my body physically responding to this trauma? How is my body physically responding to the pain? How is it physically responding to the anxiety? What does my body do? What does your body do when you go on social media and see some idiot talking about all lives matter? What happens? You tense up? Do you go into rage? Do you find that you feel like your brain is kind of shutting down? Do you get tearful? When you start to really understand how your body responds to it, that's when you can start to make changes. So there's 4 different ways that we respond, okay, to trauma. 4 different ways that we respond to trauma. There's the fight element of it, which is, you want to go in gung-ho. So if somebody's saying all lives matter, you might dive in and get on your keyboard and start typing away and whatever it is. So that's your fight. You go on the, you want to go get in there. Okay, that's the first response. The flight response is you just want to escape. You just want to escape. You don't want to talk about it. You just like, I need to get out of it. You may escape in addiction. Okay, it might be that you go on social media and you see all these idiots doing all this stuff. You feel the pain and you go and eat, or you go and light a spliff, or you go and have a cigarette, or you go and have another drink. You go and have alcohol. I've been hearing that a lot as well. People are just, they're starting to drink more and stuff like that because they can't deal with the overwhelm of the pain and the trauma that's going on. Okay, there's different ways that you can flight, you can escape. Okay, so be aware that there is the addiction element as well, and it's important to say that. If you find that you're in that situation and you are struggling with addiction, this week is my 10-year anniversary. Okay, my 10-year sobriety birthday. Happy birthday to me. And I have several different things that I can help you with. So I have a collection of speakers from a conference that I did around racial sobriety. We talk about food addiction. There's so many different things, interracial sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. There's also a starter guide in there as well. So if you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. There are various different tools and things that I have that you can start to explore the link between racism and addiction. Okay, so I just thought I'd get that in there. So really understanding. Thank you for that. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. And don't be ashamed of it. At the end of the day, recovery saved my life, and I say that honestly. Recovery saved. I don't know if I would be here. Real talk. I don't know if I would be here if it wasn't for recovery, because I was in so much pain around being black, and I didn't understand. How to put the two together. So even though I didn't, there wasn't any racial sobriety or anything when I went through the 12 steps at the time, that actually set the foundation for me to go and look and start to put all this stuff together that I'm sharing. That's why I share so honestly about this stuff now in my live streams, because I want people to understand that there is a solution to all of this, and that even though there was, because of the work that I've done and a lot of the stuff that I've shared and I've done so much service, in the recovery rooms, just trying to empower people and encourage other black people that are doing this work to look at the link between racism and addiction. Okay, look at the work between racism and addiction, because addiction is not really about the substance or the gambling or whatever. It's about pain. It's about trying to self-soothe. It's a dysfunctional way of self-soothing. It's about trying to escape the vulnerability of what it means to be black. That's why I believe so many black people are in recovery. And there's racism in those rooms as well. That's why I talk about that stuff in the stuff that I've just said to you to go to my website about. I talk about that. There's racism in the rooms. I have people having these conversations with me all the time. Racism is in the recovery rooms as well, and so we need to have something to be able to know how to deal with it, and we need our own spaces. We need our own spaces, and we need our own understanding of what all of that means and how that impacts our recovery, how that impacts our ability to stay sober. So if you're interested in that, if you're struggling with any of your, struggling with sobriety and whatever, and you want to explore the racial sobriety aspect, then please click the link in my bio and do that. Okay, so that's the second thing. Okay, about flight. You want to escape. Okay, the third way it shows up physically is that we freeze. Okay, that means we just completely shut down. And that if you were on the beginning of the broadcast, you could, I was kind of sharing that I didn't really feel quite present, in my brain was sort of, and that's kind of what was going on. I was very conscious. I was able to observe it because of the work that I'm done. I'm able to observe even when I'm checking out. So just naming what's going on and being aware of what's going on, it actually helped me to just come back into my body and kind of, restructure what my brain is trying to do. So understand that's a completely normal trauma response. And there's going to be a lot of us out here that are going to feel really shut down, that are going to feel like, oh my God, like my brain isn't working, my brain feels foggy. You might want to sleep all the time. There's so many different characteristics that are going to be happening, but just understand that it's completely normal with everything that's going on. It's totally normal. And, it's so important for you to really think about those internal boundaries. Think about how you're going to nurture yourself. Think about this small promise that you can do for yourself every day to take care of yourself. Okay, so that's number 3, the freeze. And number 4, the last way that your body responds to this trauma is fawn. Okay, fawn, F-A-W-N, and that means that you hide. You're in denial. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to talk about it. You just want to be invisible. You just want to crack on with what you're doing, in the corner, and hope that nobody sees you. Okay, these are all. And I've had different. I've been in all of those 4 different states at different times, depending on what's going on, depending on how tired I am, depending on depending on whatever's going on. I've been in all 4 of those different states at different times. Okay, but just know that when you can start to observe yourself and you begin to understand, okay, these 4 different ways that your body responds, that's when you can, when you can begin to observe that. That's when you can begin to change it. And it's not always easy, okay, to understand what's happening. When you're in the moment, when you're feeling the trauma, you don't always understand, that you're what state you're in. But hopefully after having this conversation, that you can just check in with yourself now. Check in with yourself now during this conversation and just observe how your body feels. Like, where are you holding the tension? Is it in your neck? Is it in your shoulders? Is it in your stomach? If you got like a dodgy stomach, just begin to get present as to where you're holding the tension. Because when you do that, that's when you can think to myself, okay, well, yeah, my shoulders do feel a little bit tight. Maybe I need to, ask my partner to give me a shoulder massage, or maybe I need to go in the bath with some Epsom salts. I cannot tell you how much I've had so many Epsom salt baths this week. I've lost count. That in of itself is really good for tension and stress and stuff like that. Just Epsom salt baths. I normally put like 3 like massive bowls in, and then I put like lavender oil in and all of that kind of stuff. It's about understanding. As I said, I knew that my body felt shot to pieces. I almost felt like I felt like I've been run over, but understanding my response, that's where I was, and the fact that my sleep has been up and down as well because of everything that's going on. I knew that an Epsom salt bath would work for me. Okay, my Facebook's just crashed. Just give me a minute. I'm just going to log back on again. Okay. So, am I live again now? Yes, I'm live again now. So, I knew that I needed to go and have an Epsom salt bath. So, but it's the awareness, okay? It's the awareness that is going to help with creating the calm. Okay, you create the calm through being aware of what's going on in the storm. Okay, let me say that again for people in the back. You create the calm by being aware and being observant to what's going on in the storm, not what's going on outside. We know what's going on outside, and we know that's triggering and that's trauma. We know that, but what's going on inside your body? What's going on? Because at the end of the day, if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't take responsibility for what's going on for us individually, how are we going to come together as a community? You can't come together as a community if you're not doing the work personally. You've got to calm the storm within yourself first before you can go out and do anything outside. That's why I'm so passionate about the whole self-care thing, the self-nurturing, the self-parenting, because that's where it has to begin. Okay, so that is the first bit of the triangle, understanding the physical response to the trauma and what else is going on. Okay, so the second part of the trauma is the emotional impact. Okay, how do you feel about it? And a lot of us are so disconnected from our bodies physically that we don't understand what's going on with us emotionally. Okay, and again, this is all a trauma response. This is all a trauma response. This is why it's so important to have a network, whether it's therapy, whether it's recovery rooms, whether it's, you know, I have a book club as well. I've got my book club tomorrow. We're currently studying All About Love by Bell Hooks. Okay, anybody that's interested in joining, I think I've got maybe one spot left. If anybody's interested, send me a direct message. And it's all about it's all about community and sisterhood and stuff tomorrow, so that's going to be really lovely. But yeah, you've got to, before you can do any community stuff that's really going to create change, you've got to do your own work. You know, revolution starts within. Revolution starts within. You know, you've got to start the revolution within your inner white supremacists. You've got to start that revolution within... Sorry, my connection's gone a bit weird. Yeah, you need to start that revolution starts from within. So you've got to be willing to start to be more observant and more responsive to what's happening, to what's going on within you before you can start going out and doing everything else. You know, you've got to be willing to do the work for yourself first. And to be emotionally sober, okay, to be emotionally sober, or to be emotionally intelligent, you've got to start being more aware. You can feel the feelings, but you're also observant of them. You know, and you start to do that by you know, you can do that in solitude. You can do it with meditation. Just giving yourself, even if it's 5 minutes, just give yourself 5 minutes. Or 2, if it feels really intense, just give yourself 2 minutes just to pause. Okay, just in this moment, you can just do it while you're on the live stream with me. Just pause and just really get in touch with how you're feeling. Do you feel sad? Do you feel rage? Do you feel numb? You know, there's so many. Do you feel adrenalized and hypervigilant? You know, there's so many things that are going on for us that are important for us to be aware of. You know, but when we can really start to be aware of what's going on, okay, when you understand what's going on with yourself emotionally, when you understand how you feel, that's when you can start to make different choices about the behavior that needs to happen. When you understand how you feel, that's when you can understand what you need. If you can't feel anything, then you don't know what your needs are. Then you can't take any action. You can't ask for your needs to get met, okay? And you can't have calm if you're not being conscious about how you feel and then understanding what you need. Because you're going to need something to help create the calm. You need a behaviour or some sort of action to create the calm. So, you know, it becomes a ripple effect. So you have to first be willing to look at and feel, identify how you feel, okay? And you do that, like I said before, as in just giving yourself space, giving yourself, you know, solitude, or doing it in meditation, so you can really begin to connect with how you're actually feeling. And then you can make the decision, okay, this is how I feel, this is what I need. You know, do I need a hug? Do I need to, you know, bash some pillows because I'm feeling really angry? Do I need to, you know, do some journaling to help me get my feelings out? Do I need to have a conversation with somebody else about my feelings, somebody that I trust? You know, how can I do that? How can I do that with somebody that I trust? This is the thing, this is the whole thing around the healing process. You know, you've got to be, it's about being present. And sometimes being present, especially in times like this, is the most terrifying, most excruciating thing to go through, because there is so much emotion, there is so much pain, there is so much trauma, you know, that we're trying to process right now. So sometimes being present feels like the last thing that you want to do. The last thing you want to do is feel your feelings, because you don't want to connect with the rage, you don't want to connect with the sadness, you don't want to connect with the grief, you know. And so it's really hard. Hi Natasha, thanks for joining. And Natasha saying, love your work, June, have told lots of people about you. Oh, bless you, thank you, sweetie, I really appreciate you. Yeah, it's important to get on and share this stuff. I'm sharing my process. That's what I'm doing. I didn't want to go on and come on and share loads of textbook stuff that no one's going to relate to. There's no point in that. You know, I couldn't get all my trauma books out and start sharing about this and that, and I'm thinking, no, I just wanted to come on and share my wellness triangle that I'm using, okay? And that's why you're able to relate to it, and I'm glad that you relate to it. You know, it's important. So again, the second part of the triangle is the emotional part of it. Okay, understanding your emotion, observing your emotion, and then from that position of understanding the emotion, or allowing yourself to be present to how am I feeling, then you can ask yourself, well, what do I need right now? Okay, what do I need right now? Do I need to get off social media? Do I need a hug? Do I need a recovery meeting? Do I need to just cuss some people in my journal? Do you know what I mean? Those are the things. But you have to be willing first to be really brave and find the courage to find some stillness so that you can get present to what's going on emotionally and how you feel. Okay. And the last bit of the triangle is the spiritual connection. Now that's however you identify with it. Some of you might relate to the idea of God. Some of you might relate to the idea of higher power. Some of you might say higher power in recovery, so that it's relatable to anybody. Some people might. For me, it's nature. And also for me, it's It's I'm exploring a lot of my African spirituality at the moment, which is just so amazing. And and that part of it as well is that it's connected to nature as well. Hi Rose, thanks for joining. So yeah, it's the spiritual part of it is important, because remembering that we're bigger than just this human part of us is an important part of remembering our humanity. Because whatever white supremacy does or says on how they treat us, okay, we can start to internalize that, oh my God, I'm less than human, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not good enough. We can start to internalize all of that stuff unconsciously. But when you're connected to your spirituality, however you identify with it, it's kind of like a reminder that, okay, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I am divine. I am a cup of God. I am spirit. I am power. And I'm not going to be reduced by other people that have got this sickness of racism, that think that it's okay to try and make me less than I am because my skin is different, because of their own insecurities. That's got nothing to do with me. That stuff has got nothing to do with me. Okay? I am who I am, and I'm a goddess, and so are you. And we should not internalize and accept anything other than that. Okay? We're going to take that back. Okay? But when you've got that triangle going, when you're feeling out of sorts, when I'm feeling out of sorts, I check in with myself and, okay, I'm feeling exhausted. If I'm like a couple of days ago after I did the last live stream, I was knackered. I felt mash up. I was really tired. So I thought, okay, what's going on here? So I thought, okay, physically, my body was basically saying, you need to rest. You need to calm down, because all of this stuff that I'm sharing and looking on social media and all of that kind of stuff, the anxiety, the rage, the grief, it was all coming out in my body. My body was very stiff. I was in a lot of physical pain. So I've just, the last few days I've been having Epsom salt baths. I had a really nice session with my therapist. I've been connecting with people, and that's really helped. So from a physical perspective, okay, I've been having the Epsom salt baths and being present to what was going on, and I was able to listen to my body. That's the thing. When your body is behaving and doing certain things, it's about listening, being observant to what's going on. Okay, so then that part of the triangle, okay, that was okay. I've dealing with that bit. The emotional part of it is that I'm just feeling worn out. I'm feeling emotionally exhausted. Okay. So I dealt with that by obviously seeing the therapist, and I spoke to the therapist about what I needed to talk about and whatnot. And then the spiritual aspect, okay, what's going on with that? Is that out of whack, or am I dealing with that? And I would say probably at the moment, I could probably do with a bit more spiritual connection. I haven't been out for a couple of days. I could probably go out and, go and sit in the sun, get some vitamin D, go and sit under the trees and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's really important. But just having that triangle, it's a very, very simple concept. If you're feeling rubbish at the moment, think about those 3 points. Is it physical? Okay, are you disconnected from your body? Are you observant in your body? Is it emotional? Are you connected to how you feel, or are you just feeling over? You can say, just speak it out, whatever it is. without judgment. Don't judge yourself. Even if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling rage, so what? You got a right to. Okay, but it's owning those feelings. Own them, and then externalize them. That's how you create calm. Okay, when you own the feelings and you externalize them in a healthy way through journaling, talking to therapists, whatever it is. Okay, that's when you create the calm inside the storm. And then the spiritual part of it just reminds you of your power. It reminds you that you're not just this human flesh. Okay, it reminds you that you are powerful and that you're not just this human flesh. Okay, so next time you're feeling out of sorts or you're feeling upset or sad, think about those 3 points on that triangle. Okay, because that's really helped me. And then if you're feeling out of sorts, just do a mental check for the 3 points and check in with yourself so you can realign it. Okay, so you can realign it. Okay, so that's it for today's broadcast. If you found this broadcast really helpful and you think that somebody else would benefit from what I've just shared, please tag them, share it with them, let them know that there is help out there, and that you don't have to spend the next few days being subjected to all of this trauma and stuff that's on the internet at the minute. You know, I'm very intentional at the moment in sharing stuff that is going to help. I don't want to just recycle the trauma. I'm coming on to help you and give you tools. That's what I want to do. I want to give you tools. I don't just want to keep talking about, we know what happened. We know it's disgusting. Okay? We know it's disgusting, but people need tools. You know, I looked down my timeline and I thought, okay, people are upset. You know, they're upset with trying to explain all lives matter. People are tired. And I'm just thinking, okay, how can I serve the community? What can I share today that is going to empower people? And I just thought, you know what? People want a sense of calm inside the storm. We don't want to feel powerless. We don't want to feel like we're not being heard. We don't want to be invisible. Okay, so today I am showing up to say, I see you. I see you. And I hear you. Okay, I see you, I hear you, I understand. And there are things that you can do. Maybe not the things that you want to do. Okay, the bigger picture, there are things that you want to do. But in order to do the bigger things, you have to, just for today, just focus on the small things. Okay? Don't worry about the big things for today. If you're feeling tired, focus on the small things. Okay? Focus on the small things. If you're living with other people in your house, love on those people. Have loads of physical contact. Get more hugs. If you're living with your partner, go and have sex. You know, go and have sex. Get pleasure. Give yourself permission to give yourself some nurturing and some pleasure and some goodness, because you deserve those things. We deserve those things. Give yourself permission to receive pleasure and love from where it's available, and it's available. White supremacy wants us to be afraid and fearful and angry and, you know, and all of those things. And obviously those are normal responses to trauma. But there are things that we can do to nurture the calm inside the storm. There are things that we can do to nurture the calm inside this. Despite the storm, you can still take care of yourself. Just keep it in the day. You're welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing what you shared. You said you can get locked up now for having... Marie, that's so funny. You can get locked up now for having sex. What, even if you live in the same house? No, come on. Maybe if they don't live in the same house. I know maybe if you don't live in the same house, people are probably sneaking around doing that. But you know what? We've been locked down for 10 weeks, man. People are probably climbing the walls. But that's a whole nother broadcast. I'm not going to go down that road. That's a whole nother broadcast. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If you, if there's anything at all in this broadcast that, that has, that has stirred up some some stuff and you want more support and you want to discuss this further, you can drop me an email. Send me an email, info@guideofgreatness.com, or you can go to you can send me a direct message. If if you're struggling with any of the stuff that I spoke about around addiction, you can click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net, and you can get some information there. So thank you again, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Take care, be kind to yourself today. All right, bye.